You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome back to Horror Ramblings, your podcast for everything horror. I'm trying to do this, a little bit more weirder than what Les does, but yeah, it's fine. I'm your host, Stephen White, as usual. Les is still away on his quest for... I think he's battling Mickey Mouse or something. I'm not 100% sure. I remember it was something like that. We talked about it last week. I don't know. But again, I have decided to bring along a guest. Last week we had my sister from another Mr. Lacey Finley from Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo. We talked about video games. But this week I thought I would kind of take Lester's approach that he did when I was off. And I invited my wife along to chat about horror. My wife, Katrina. Hi, Katrina. How are you?
Hello. I am good.
Now, Katrina has actually worked with me. Like, we've done a podcast together. 13 episodes thus far called Inspired by a Weeboo. Yep. And it's an anime themed podcast where the idea of it is that we are talking about we're kind of reviewing anime. Yeah. Anime that you've watched. Yep. And you're trying to get me to watch because I don't hate anime. I'm just not into it like you are.
Yeah. Anime is part of my whole personality.
Right. So, and we thought it would be a fun exercise in trying to see how that would work, and it would be a fun podcast to do. Now, we recorded those first 13 probably a few years ago. The podcast is available now on most podcast platforms on its own, because I think I initially posted it on the Super Mega Crash Brothers feed when we were back on Podbean, and I've been trying to separate all the podcasts for branding purposes and whatnot. So I wanted Inspired by a Weeboo to stand on its own. We have talked about reviving it, trying to do new episodes. Time has just been a factor.
Yes.
But we noticed that people were listening, not watching, but they were listening to it. So we do want to bring it back for people to listen to. So hopefully very, very soon this year, we will have new episodes for people. So if you're into anime, please go look up Inspired by a Weeboo and check that out. So with all that said, what I wanted to look into, and then we're going to kind of get into some other things as we go along, but essentially I wanted to ask you, before I ever came into your life, before I was ever, I've been a thought in your life. We've known each other for most of our lives. That's one thing you got to keep in mind, because for context, there's about a 10-year gap between us.
Yes, 10 years and like a month.
Yeah, so don't, if people say age don't listen to that. It doesn't matter. But, we knew each other when we were kids. And then you moved off to Ohio, and we hadn't seen each other for a long time. Yep. But, and I hate to admit this, but I'd forgotten about her. But then when I saw pictures of her as a child, I was like, oh yeah, I do remember her. And of course, obviously, I wasn't turned on or attracted to the child.
Stop.
I'm clarifying for the audience. There was a complete difference.
No, matter of fact, when me and my sister were younger, my sister had a crush on you and always called you her teddy bear, and I had a crush on Michael, your brother.
Yeah. So how
Like,
about that?
I believe that man was my boyfriend for like the first 10 years of my life.
And yet she got stuck with number 2. How about that?
I'm happy with number 2.
Okay, so to get back to our main question, tangents. I'm telling you, this is
Before
what,
I met you,
before you met me, or before
we got
really
together.
before we had any kind of relationship whatsoever, whether it be friendly, talking, whatever. Otherwise, what was your relationship to horror films or just horror in general?
I hated them.
You know, why is that? Was there something particular that kind of sparked that?
I honestly don't know. From as long as I can remember, anything that was supernatural, like ghosts or anything like that. Like, I know, sorry.
We have cats.
Yes, we have cats, and we have a very small one that likes to suckle the blankets. Anyway, like, I can think back to movies that were not scary. Casper. Fucking loved Casper. Hated the uncles. They terrified me. The Mummy, when it first came out, I could not watch it because The Mummy absolutely terrified me.
Okay, fair enough.
Scooby-Doo. You know how big of a freaking fan of Scooby-Doo I am. I am absolutely in love with Scooby-Doo. But when Scooby-Doo Zombie Island came out, I could only watch it during the day because if I watched it at night, I had nightmares.
So, I mean, there's not anything that you can think of that kind of spurred this on.
No.
Like,
There is nothing that I can think of other than probably hearing like ghost story type crap from my dad when I was younger. Because I don't know where it is in Tennessee. And if anybody is from Tennessee, and I don't even know if you've ever heard of it, but there's like this road and there's a big tree. And the story is that a woman and her boyfriend were driving down the road and they crashed and they both went through the windshield and she face planted the tree and then his body wrapped around her. And you could see like a human face that looked like it was embedded in the tree. And my father took me and my sister there when we were very, very small and told us about it. So that's probably one of the earliest memories I have of being terrified.
I'd say that's what did it.
But it wasn't like I didn't watch horror movies as a child. My parents would watch them every now and then, but my mom wasn't a big fan of like blood and gore. Mm-hmm. So like I've told Steven before, like Freddy. You said, which one was it? The one with the video game.
Oh, that would be Freddy's Dead.
Yes. Where he does the whole video game and the boy and, you know, of course he dies and everything. I can remember seeing it as a child and thinking that it was funny. So I never had a bad association with Freddy. Jason terrified me just as like this big lumbering man kind of bump in the night type thing. Didn't know who the hell Michael Myers was. But the one that terrified me the most was Chucky.
Chucky. And he's gonna kind of be our topic for the day.
Yes.
Because we before we kind of got onto this, because we were talking about maybe doing a podcast or doing this episode, but I really wasn't sure. Like we'd kind of danced around a few ideas, mainly about anime, but then we started having a conversation about Child's Play. Mm-hmm. Because, and I think I've mentioned this podcast on here before. I've been listening to episodes of with Gorley and Rust, which they review a lot of horror franchises, like they've done Nightmare on Elm Street, they've done Friday the 13th, Halloween, and now they're doing Child's Play. Mm-hmm. And we started discussing that, and then it just kind of clicked, and I was like, wait a minute. This is our podcast. We've got to talk about this. And we were just in the middle. And if we seem a little off, we might be intoxicated. But it's fine. But it felt like it would be a proper topic because our audience is you're horror fiends. They might be anime fiends. I don't know. But this just seemed like the appropriate thing. So you say that Chucky was the one that terrified you the most, but he's also now, as we were discussing, the one that fascinates you the most.
Yes, he is probably my favorite horror movie icon. And funny enough, he is actually our daughter's favorite horror movie icon.
That's true.
Who is about to turn 8 on Sunday. But she absolutely loves Chucky. She finds him fascinating. And I find him fascinating, which I didn't, again, as a child, was utterly terrified. Couldn't say his name. Couldn't name any stuffed animals. Chucky. Like, it was a very irrational fear, I guess.
Well, I mean, for a child, and especially with a doll, I think it's a very rational fear because at the time he came out, there were My Buddy dolls, Kid Sister dolls that looked just like the Good Guy dolls.
We actually, way before Bride of Chucky came out, we actually had a female doll that would like say mama, and it broke, and it would just randomly speak. Like you were supposed to push, like its hand or something, and it broke, and it would just randomly speak, like just in the middle of the night. You'd hear it say mama. And me and Kimberly always joked about it looking like Chucky's bride. Like if Chucky had a bride, this is what this doll would look like. And funny enough, it was like bluish eyes, which I don't remember what color Tiffany's are. I think they're like green.
Yeah, they might be blue. I don't remember right offhand.
They're either blue or green. I really feel like they're green. But anyway, she had blonde hair, and she was about like the size of what, the
Tiffany.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like what the Chucky and Tiffany dolls would be. But like this doll, we literally threw her away, found her in our closet like the next day. Like she just kept coming back. And we know now it was our grandmother.
Right.
But then as children, like, I was convinced that was Chucky's wife and she was going to murder me in my sleep.
See, they already had the idea for Bride of Chucky long before Don Mancini ever did. And for context, I do want to mention this, and if I can find the video and post it on our Instagram, I'll definitely do it, where she said that our daughter loved Chucky. We got her... Where did we get that bear?
I found it at a Goodwill.
Yeah, it was a teddy bear, but it was made to look like Chucky.
Yes,
like
even had the little knife.
Had the knife, had kind of the scars, and the whole good guy getup, but it also kind of, it teetered a line. It wasn't like official
it's
merch.
One of those, like, some small company was like, ooh, let's profit off of this.
Yeah, so you knew what they were going for, but, it wasn't officially licensed or anything, but we got this just as a fluke, and when she was born, it was just kind of one of her teddy bears.
Yeah. And
I remember one time, because we just called it Chucky Bear, and she was probably, 7 months, give or take. She wasn't walking yet. She was still kind of in her crawling phase, and we were just like, hey, where's Chucky Bear? Where's Chucky Bear? And we got this on video, by the way. Yes. We were just like, where's Chucky Bear? Where's Chucky Bear? And she's just looking around the room, and then she spots the bear, and she crawls over to it and picks him up and just holds him up in the air. And it's like, there's Chucky Bear. And we didn't have any inkling she knew who the hell Chucky Bear was. No. And she surprised the hell out of all of us because it's like, oh my God, she understands and knows who Chucky Bear is.
Yeah.
She knew it 100%. So it was mind-boggling. So I got to find that video for you. And also to clarify, you said she's turning 8 on Sunday. By the time this comes out, that Sunday will have passed.
Okay. Well,
so she is 8 now.
She'll be 8.
She is 8 now.
Yes.
Upon
like
listening.
We're not those parents that I guess shielded our child from a lot of like the horror movie stuff. But honestly, like we even have a video of her literally dancing in front of the TV while watching the first Nightmare on Elm Street, where Johnny Depp's character gets pulled through the bed and the blood is spraying up. And she's like in diapers, like maybe 2. Yeah, it had been 2 because we lived in this current house. But she's just dancing, arms in the air, and just just dancing around. And she thought it was the funniest thing she's ever seen.
Yeah. If she winds up being messed up, I guess it's our fault. But I'm going to hope she's well adjusted.
I think she is. She also likes unicorns and LOLs and My Little Pony. So
yeah, she's not.
I think we're doing good.
No, I mean, when we say we don't shield her from it, she doesn't necessarily gravitate toward it. She doesn't like want to watch it, but she's not afraid of it either. You know,
it's one of those where if it's on, she'll run out every now and then and watch scenes from something. And of course, we don't let her watch the absolute horrible scenes.
Yeah.
But I mean, she knows who Chucky is. She knows Tiffany is Chucky's wife. Like she wants to freaking be him for Halloween. She doesn't want to be Tiffany. She wants to be Chucky. and
she's if there was another horror icon she actually knows, it would be Jason.
Oh yes,
like
she does like. She loves Jason.
Yeah, she has an obsession with Jason. She actually got to meet Kane Hodder, but the problem is I don't think she knew who he was.
No, she got to meet him, and like we were trying to explain to her, it was Jason and everything, and
she was
she got up there, and she is socially awkward anyway, which she gets from us. But she took a picture with him. But she knows a lot of horror movie people. Like she knows, Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. Who else? She knows Freddy. And funny enough, Lester's son is obsessed with Freddy the same way Clivey is obsessed with Chucky.
Yeah. So now with Child's Play, when we were talking about it, because I was bringing up a lot of the conversations that Gorley and Rust were having, and we were talking about Child's Play and just how the franchise seems consistent.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of the topic in which we thought, maybe this would be worth talking about, because we kind of realized that through their conversations and through our own observations, it's probably one of the most, if not the most consistent horror franchise out of all of them.
I would say it is the most consistent, because when you look at, like we said, like Friday the 13th, they kill Freddy, they got to find some way to bring him back because they want to make more movies. And there's so many things that people pick apart between all the movies, but you don't see that with Chucky.
Yeah.
But you see that with Freddy, you see it with Jason, you see it with Michael Myers, like.
And I wouldn't say necessarily that it's not flawed, because there are a few things here and there that you could be like, well, why is that? For example, Bride of Chucky. Mm-hmm. I remember they brought up an amulet that was buried with his body. Well, we never got to see an amulet on his body when he was killed in the original movie, so it was something that was retconned for that film. Is it important? Not really. It's just a MacGuffin to kind of get the plot going. Does it matter? Not really. I don't feel like it's such a groundbreaking item into the lore of the world that it makes or breaks the movie. Like to where you're going, all right, well, this doesn't make sense. Yeah. You're just like, oh, okay. And like we overlooked a detail.
Well, like even with, I do feel like it could be, left out.
Yeah, it gave the characters a reason to do what they're doing, because it's really not about the amulet. It's just a reason to go to their destination.
Yeah.
So I kind of understand maybe why they did it, because why would you need to go find his body? Well, if he had an amulet, okay, cool. I think it could have been something that could have been in his pocket, something he stole that day. I don't know. It's just because I don't even think they even touched on that in the series, because in the end of season 1, they showed what was happening, like mere moments before he actually got shot.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the amulet being kind of a part of it, so it almost kind of retcons it back out in a way.
Oh no, I can't remember.
I can't remember either. I just don't remember anything about the amulet. But again, I don't. It's such an insignificant item that I don't really feel like it matters. It was just a means to an end for that movie that does not really affect anything in any of the narrative. Mm-hmm. It was just a way to get to point A to point B, and it could have been a lie. Who knows? I know they had a picture, but still, who knows? But okay, so with Chucky now, I guess before we get too deep into that, because I do want to talk about this because we haven't really talked about that. We talked about your where you kind of were with horror pre me, mm-hmm. and then I have always loved horror.
Yes.
I'm very particular about my horror, by the way. I don't just watch any and everything. And, different strokes, different folks, whatever. You watch what you love. But I introduced you to horror in general. I mean, I kind of opened that door for you. And you did kind of have your reservations mm-hmm. up front. You were just like, I don't really care for it. Now, do you feel like I forced it upon you? Or was it something that you just kind of... Like, how did you feel about it when I was trying to get you to watch some of these movies?
I mean, I can remember, like when I was pregnant, watching the movies kind of irritated me because, like, I jump scare so freaking easily.
Yes, she does.
Even if it is not a scary movie, if there is a jump scare, I will jump, I will scream, I tense up my body, and it hurts. So being pregnant and doing that really freaking hurts. But I don't feel like you ever forced me into it. It was a, like, give it a chance.
Yeah.
And there's still a lot that I won't watch today. There's still a lot that I, fight on watching. I'm not a big ghost type person.
Right.
Honestly, like, I don't like the Conjurings. I don't like the Paranormal Activity. Never seen Annabelle. I think we watched like one of the Conjurings. I know it was like The Nun was in it, and I will not watch The Nun.
We watched two of them. I watched the third one without you. Yeah. I do know that. Yeah.
But
I do like The Conjuring, by the way.
Yes, and Jade and Piper do too. Hmm. Those are our kids.
Two of our kids.
But no, it's. I feel like you started to find horror movies that you thought I would like to kind of get me into it a little bit. Like, I know a lot of people probably wouldn't find it as horror, and I'm not really sure if it's considered horror, but the Puppet Master movies.
Yeah, they're horror.
Yeah. Well, those are one of my favorite ones, too. I literally own a jester, thanks to my amazing husband. And a little plushy blade. But you found things that you thought I would like to ease me into it, and it just got to that point where I wasn't having nightmares and I wasn't getting scared, and I could, walk through a room in the dark and everything else without feeling panicky.
Right.
And now it doesn't bother me unless it's something that's like The Conjuring or Paranormal Activity or something like that. But even with saying that, we've watched The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor. I absolutely loved them. Mama, I love it. What else? I think there's some more that are kind of in like the ghostly realm of movies that I like, but it boils down to the intent of the ghost.
Right.
So if it's like an evil ghost that's out to get you, like The Conjuring and, Paranormal Activity, that's the stuff that terrifies me. But the misunderstood ones, like Mama, she just wanted to protect her babies. The Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor, they have their own reasons for the things that they do, and the people who get hurt are just kind of caught in the crossfire.
Sure.
So it's not as scary. It's like a misunderstood. But when it gets into like super gory stuff, And I think that's why, like, even Jason, I don't view as super gory. I know I used to get irritated because of the boobs.
Yeah, but that's what they were all about. It was just like
Yes,
boobs.
I would
and
always
drugs
be like,
and
why are
whatnot.
we always watching movies with boobs? Now I don't care. I also like boobs. But he did go out and get me Zach and Mary Make a Porno so I could see Jason Mewes
Yeah,
in all of his glory just to make up for all of the boobs. But I don't know, like I don't feel like you ever pushed me into it, but I'm thankful that I gave it the shot, and I gave it the shot because of you, you know, introducing me to it. And like even when we met Kane Hodder the first time, I literally hid behind you or to your side because he fucking terrified me. And he's so sweet. He is absolutely sweet. Like he gave me a hug, but it was like the most like soft, sweet hug I've ever had.
yeah. No, he was a treat, and I mean you've come to how many horror? Are they conventions? Yeah, they're horror.
Yeah,
conventions.
they're conventions.
I'd say we've done 3 thus far that I can think of, because the first one was maybe in 2013, and it was still the same. It was the Full Moon Horror Tattoo and Horror Convention. They were in a different spot the first time we went back in 2013, and that's where we met. We didn't meet Kane Hodder there. We've been to 4, but the first time we met Kane Hodder was not at a horror convention. It was the big fandom
LexCon.
Oh my God. If you've ever been to the horror convention, I think it's Fandom Fest in Lexington, Kentucky. If you've ever had a bad experience there, yeah, join the club. Because the whole reason we went there was so I could meet Stan Lee, who is was my idol. Mm-hmm. And
which we did get to technically meet him.
And I've got a picture with him, but
yes,
not in the way that I wanted to. With Kane Hodder, we've actually gotten to spend a little time with him, speak to him, chat. Mm-hmm. Stan Lee, it was like a what do you call it? Like God damn it, I can't even think the word.
It's like an assembly line.
There you go. That's the word I was looking for. And it was just like, go, 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 go. And
like, I literally cried because we had VIP passes. And the messed up part about that was, you know, you had the head celebrities. So you had Stan Lee. There was William Shatner, Jason Momoa, Jason David Frank was there. And I think there was a couple others up there with Stan Lee. But we bought VIP passes, and, you know, you would think you get, you know, special treatment with VIP passes. Yeah. And literally every single other person out of the hundreds of people who were there to see Stan Lee had VIP passes. Yeah. They continued to sell them up to the day that they opened. And they were having problems with that convention because they oversold the tickets and were at max capacity, and the fire marshal had to shut the damn doors and stop letting people in. Yeah, we got locked out at one point, and that really pissed us off because, again, we paid for VIP passes, and we were told, no, you can't get in. It was like, what? What are you talking about? So that was a shit show if I ever saw one, but every other time we got to meet him, at actual horror again, the Full Moon Tattoo and Horror conventions, it's been nice. You know, they're smaller venues. We've gotten to meet a variety of different people. We got to meet, who was it at the first one? The very first convention we ever went to, not like the horror convention, but the very first convention we ever went to, we met Ernie Hudson. Yep, Ernie Hudson. That was actually the same convention where I got to meet the man who played Grandpa from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And let me tell you, that man, whose name John Dugan. I want to shout him out proper. He was an absolute mensch because I saw him, and I wouldn't say that I recognized him per se. As in, like, you looked at him really hard, like you were trying to figure out who he was. And it clicked.
Yeah, and then I saw the pictures, I saw everything, I saw and everything just kind of flooded to me. I was like, oh my god! And to keep for context, I think the very first time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre was when I was probably 17 years old. Had never seen it before, and I had been doing a lot of binging at the local video store. So, I had a job, I had money. So I would always go down to the video store and just start looking through movies that I never got to see before or rent something new. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre was one of those that just kind of floated by me. Like I'd never seen any of them. And one day I was just like, I want to watch this movie. So, because I don't remember what it was that triggered it, but there was just, I think I know what it was now. There was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, which is a god-awful movie. I'm sorry. If you like that movie, I apologize, but I don't like it. But there was a trailer for it on a video that I saw, and I was like, okay, I'm interested. I'm intrigued, but this is like number 4 out of, all this. So let me go back to the beginning before I wind up here. Let me see the context of it. So I went out and rented part 1 and part 2 and wanted to really sink them in. Now, I want to admit this. As a 17-year-old, I had rented them, I think, before I went to work that day. And then I got off, like I worked the night shift. Got off, went home, and it was probably 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, and I'm wired, I'm awake because I'd worked, and I turned off all the lights, popped that tape in, and as soon as John Larroquette started narrating, and the mood that was being set, I shut it off, and I was like, I don't think I want to watch this right now. So I waited until the next day, and I watched part 1, and it just floored me because I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because I had never seen anything like this as far as horror had gone. It just felt surreal in just all the weird ways, and I was just not prepared for it. And then I immediately watched part 2 afterwards. Now, if you've watched part 1 and watched part 2, they're vastly different movies. And I did not care for part 2 at that time because I did not understand and appreciate what it was. Because, again, vastly different movies. Yeah. Even though they're directed by the same guy, I didn't understand the context of what was going on. So it took me a long time before I really found an appreciation for part 2. Part 2 is, again, one of my all-time favorites now to this day because I now understand it. I understand what it was. But anyway, roundabout way of getting back to John Dugan. I saw him sitting there. I recognized him. Nobody else had been around. And I'm starting to wonder if this is not why I got what I felt like was a little special treatment. Is I walked over, and as Katrina mentioned, we can be a little socially awkward, and I
literally had to tell you to go over and just ask him
because I was so nervous.
Yes, he was.
I was so nervous.
Oh my god!
And I waltzed over, and I stared at his table. I wanted to look him in the eye, but I just couldn't. And I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was just like, I just wanted to come over here and say how much I really love you in that movie and how much it means to me. And I was just mumbling all this stuff while looking at his table, just kind of looking at the pictures and just being all nervous and awkward. And I was just like, I just wanted to come over here and say that, because it just means a lot. And I really like the movie. And he's like, you want a picture? And I was like, yeah. And, free of charge. And there were other people there. There was this guy. If you've ever watched the Ernest P. Worrell movies, this one of them the two guys, the big guy and the little guy. The little guy was there, and he wouldn't give away a free picture for shit. But
we actually got special treatment with Ernie Hudson too.
Yeah.
We have a doll that is our son's, and it's a Winston doll. And we took that with us because we knew Ernie Hudson was going to be there. And then we wanted to get a autograph picture. Well, it was like $60 per autograph. And I think I was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
And Ernie Hudson, you know, he was talking to us, like, you know, just chatting us up like he's this normal person. Which I know actors are normal people, but, you know, it's Ernie Hudson.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there was Batman was there crying.
Yes. Batman, full expensive, like,
Michael Keaton Batman suit.
Yes, like legit Batman suit. And his wife is like dabbing his bat tears. It was freaking glorious. But when they said it was $60 a signature, we were like, oh, well, we only have enough to do just the doll. And Ernie Hudson was like, don't charge them for the autograph.
Yeah.
So he signed the doll for our son, and then he signed a picture for our daughters.
Yeah.
And we still have them. But, you know, you meet some people that are freaking awesome, but we have met some that just don't seem like they give two shits to talk to you.
Which I will go ahead and shout out. I may have done this before, but I'm going to do it again. Zach Galligan
the one
from Gremlins is a dick.
Twice!
Twice!
We've met him, and twice, as soon as we were like, oh, we don't, you know, have money for autograph. We just wanted to talk to you and say hi. He completely ghosted you, like sitting right in front of you, just, whoop, you don't exist.
Did not give a damn. And look, I understand why they're there. They're there to make money, but you know what? My dollar can only go so far. I'm sorry. I'm trying to meet everybody. I'm trying to get signatures from everybody, and I'm not looking for a handout.
Yeah.
But you know what? Just a little common courtesy, just to be like, hey, man, I appreciate you at least coming over and saying hi.
Yes. Like, we got to meet Michael Berryman.
Yeah.
And he sat there and he talked to me. He talked to my friend. He talked to Lester and my daughter, like our daughter. Like, he sat there and gave him a whole speech about how they're the future. And, you know, he's so happy that this young generation is going to grow up one day and be set for the world and everything else. Like, it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
But he also, boy, he's got a sharp tongue on him.
He does. So to go back to Child's Play, since we were talking about that, we're bouncing all over the place. We have not gotten to meet Brad Dourif. We've not gotten to meet Jennifer Tilly, and by God, if we could.
God,
or
I would
Alex,
love to.
What's his name? Alex Barkley. Is that his name? No, his name is. Is that right? Why is it?
I don't know. You're the one that knows the names. I'm just like
Andy Barkley. I'm getting his Alex Vincent is the actor. I got his names backwards. Andy Barkley, played by Alex Vincent.
Gotcha.
There we go. I would love to meet Chris Sarandon, who was in the original, by the way. He was the detective. He was also in Fright Night, played Jerry Dandridge, and that's another one of my all-time favorite movies.
Fright Night is really good.
Yes,
I really liked Fright Night.
So, with Child's Play, I guess what we want to talk about, the consistency. So, we were talking about how we went from all the movies. Another point that they brought up that I had never considered, and I wanted to talk to you about it, and hopefully our ramblers will kind of ponder it themselves, is they said if you really take a look at the way the films play out sequel to sequel, they don't necessarily fit the trajectory that you would assume. Yeah. Because with, say, like Friday the 13th, we go from, okay, well, the mother was the killer in part 1, and then Jason is the killer in part 2. Maybe not the trajectory you expected, but it makes sense in the process of, I guess, producer talk. Is like, well, who's going to be the killer? It'll be the kid. How does that make sense? It doesn't matter. And then we just do it. And then, but each subsequent sequel is just, he comes back to life, he kills the campers or whoever's in the Crystal Lake, and that's that. Yeah. Nothing else to it. It's just that simple.
He's just killing trespassers.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just misunderstood. He's just like, this is my property. Back the fuck off.
Right. And I would say to some degree, Nightmare on Elm Street does kind of veer off into territory that you might not expect, but there is some consistency to it because from part 1 to part 2, drastically different movies.
Yeah.
And for obvious reasons. But Nancy's house was the primary focus.
Yes.
So it was like, okay, so it's the house that's the problem, or the house is where he looms, and that's why.
It always seems to go back to
what's
the
his
house.
name? The guy, Mark Patton, his actor, the character. Jesus Christ, this is gonna kill me. I can't remember the guy's name in the movie. I can't remember. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. He becomes Freddy's obsession because he needs somebody to terrorize. He just happens to be the older teenager in the house, so that becomes his focus. And part 3 does kind of veer off, but then we bring Nancy back in, so then we have that familiarity that gets kind of brought back in, and the house is still a adequate forefront to what we're kind of, working into the nightmares.
Yeah.
It becomes the House of Doom or House of Freddy, if you will. And then that becomes something. And then, again, each subsequent sequel seems to follow a through line until they kind of go off the rails with Freddy's Dead. And then you don't really know where they're going, but it's not consistent, as we've mentioned.
Yeah.
But with Child's Play, there is consistency, but there's also veering off into different directions that you don't expect while being consistent. And that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because part 2, we'll go to part 2 for starters. Obvious thought would be, okay, well, Andy and his mom have moved on, and maybe the detective is, maybe they have a relationship, maybe they don't, but we're still in Chicago and the whole city area, and then maybe Chucky comes back somehow, some way, because it could still work in that same regard, because I think they rebuilt the doll in that film, so it could have still worked. But what happens, Andy's separated from his mom, so that raises questions. What happened to his mom? I still want to know that question.
Which I feel like they touched on it in...
Briefly,
I want to
though.
say was it the series or was it actually one of the movies?
I feel like they said a little something about it in part 2, but it was so brief that I don't feel like it's enough.
I think it's one of those things where, like, I really feel like it's mentioned that... where they say, she thought there was a killer doll.
Yeah.
Like, they thought she was the one that was the killer, but she was, kind of mentally insane.
Yeah.
So maybe it was that whole, it was the killer doll, but she was locked away.
Yeah.
Which would explain why Andy was taken and... Yeah.
So, here's a question for you. Not to veer off. You're still on Child's Play, but I'm curious about this as well, because this was a little something they touched on, I think, in the very first when they were talking about Child's Play. And I'd really like to know your thought on it, because I don't know if the series would have went down the same road had they approached Child's Play in this direction.
Okay.
Say that we toyed with the framework of the film just a little bit, and throughout the entire movie, you're under the assumption that Andy is trying to tell you it's Chucky, and it could very well be Chucky, but we never see him do it. And throughout most of the movie, we are convinced it's Andy, because they toy with it early on. But again, we're already kind of subjected to Charles Lee Ray and Chucky, so we're already kind of in the know.
Yeah.
But what if we weren't? What if we just see this kid and he gets obsessed with this doll, and maybe they plant a few seeds to make you think maybe he's just a little off or something like that, and then throughout most of the movie we see that, and then maybe up to the point where his mom gets the doll, like gets Chucky and opens up the back.
Yeah.
That's when the reveal happens. Because I think that would have been a lot more terrifying, because we're all kind of, is it Andy? Is it not? I don't know, because I don't know. And then suddenly it's like, oh shit, it is the doll. You know?
See, like, I feel like
Do you think it would have taken away from what the series is in a way, or taken something from it?
I don't think it would have taken anything away. like, the way that you're explaining it is literally, I feel like you're almost seeing behind the scenes. So every other character is seeing exactly what you're describing because that's Chucky's MO.
Right.
100%. Make these children look like they're the ones doing this stuff. They're going to get blamed for it. I get away scot-free. And I know in the first, well, up until Chucky's Bride, he wanted his body back. And then he decided he didn't want his body back. And of course, the series goes way into even more shit than that. But I think it's almost, like I said, like we're seeing the behind the scenes type thing. But I think it would be really cool to see something. Granted, they can't really do it now.
Yeah.
Now, if they want to make a totally different, because obviously Chucky is not the only killer doll. But if they wanted to make any other kind of movie and kind of use that type of storyline, I think it would be really good. Because, like, The Boy.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you find out, spoiler alert, it's not the doll. But literally through that whole freaking movie, I was convinced this doll was alive. And then you find out when that motherfucker busts through the damn wall like the Kool-Aid Man. Like, he just came out of nowhere. And it's like, you can't get that back. So, like, I haven't watched the second one yet because I'm just like, well, either he's alive or they're doing, you know, what they made you think they're doing in the first one.
Right.
Like, there's only two possibilities. I don't see what else it could freaking be. But just once you get that
reveal.
Yeah, once you get that reveal, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as they announced a sequel, I could not wrap my head around it. I was like, how, you've already spoiled the big surprise.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to have to go way out of left field to make me buy this again because I understand. I got it now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't expect that. That was a big surprise. I appreciated that. But you've done it. You've spoiled your trick. That was your magic trick, and you've told me.
Yeah. And I feel like that's almost what Friday the 13th, because they did it in the first one. You don't see sweet, you know, little Mrs. Voorhees being the psycho killer.
Yeah.
Not if you're watching it, you know.
Now, just to kind of plug on that ever so briefly, I really wish, just a little smidgen of wish that they would have introduced her at some point early, maybe like when the two kids at the beginning, or the one girl at the beginning. Yeah. Of course, again, that would kind of cause conflict with the ride she gets and then gets stabbed. So, I don't know. I just feel like I wish there was kind of some introduction to the character as just some person in town, sweetest person.
If, like,
don't even linger on her.
I was going to say they could literally do like freaking way off out of the horror aspect, but Watchmen, Rorschach. You watch that movie, he's literally in like every fucking scene just in the background and you don't know it's him.
And that was the beauty of the book, because I had that same revelation when I read the book, is when they showed his face for the first time and unmasked him. They showed it in such a way, they framed it in such a way as like, remember him? And I'm like, who is he? And then I started thumbing through the book and I was like, oh. And I saw him and all I was like, holy shit, this guy's been here the whole time.
Those are the type of things that like, you just gotta freaking love about movies like that though.
And that's kind of what I wished. And again, it doesn't take away anything from the movie. It doesn't, but she just feels like she was like, hi, I'm here. And you're like, well, who are you? I don't remember you from... And normally you have that, but in the same regard, I guess we're not planting red herrings, because I know they do that a lot in movies, and then suddenly, you know, it's like, oh, of course it's that person. We saw that person early on, and of course it's that person.
Yeah.
So they didn't do that with her, so when she shows up, you're like, who the fuck is this? So it works, but I kind of feel like just a little bit of an introduction. She could have just been in the shop. Yeah. And you saw her and you just have like a nice little interaction.
Even if that little blue sweater.
Yeah.
Just walking by. Like, once you know who that woman is and you watch that movie again, you're going to see that sweater every damn time, no matter where the hell it is. Like, that is iconic.
Mm-hmm. So that would have been cool, but again, it doesn't detract because I still feel like kind of relating to what you were talking about, where the ghosts, you know, when they're misunderstood. That's how I feel about Pamela. She's a misunderstood woman.
She's just
a grieving mother.
Yeah, she is a grieving mother. She had her child. We know that, or well, do we know or do we? No, they do touch on it about how her father or whatever, possibly the father of Jason, inbred, possibly.
No, they've never stated that. In fact, his father has kind of been the only time they mentioned his father was in Jason Goes to Hell, and that was just saying his name.
Graveyard.
And then no, that was Jason Lives. That was part 6, and that was where he was supposed to be introduced. But for some reason, all the producers were like, no, let's not mention his father. And it's like, but why? Why are you so afraid of his father? Because, I mean, people want to know, and he has a name now.
Yeah.
So why not just explore it? But if it's not worth exploring, I personally don't feel like it's worth exploring because I feel like the mother is the linchpin.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, regardless, like, it's her child.
Yeah.
That's the only family that we know that she had because we know Jason's father wasn't around.
Right.
Like, he literally had to be at camp because that's where she worked.
Mm-hmm.
But just the thought, like, any parent, the thought of losing your child is absolutely gut-wrenching. And the thought of that your child died because of the neglect of people who were supposed to be watching him and was bullied and everything else and, you know, died in a absolutely horrible freaking way. And you just get shoved to the side.
Yeah.
You don't get any type of justice. These people get to walk away scot-free. You know, yeah, maybe they shut down the camp for a few years. And I think, you know, obviously that's why she snapped. They opened this camp up where her child died. Nothing ever came from it. So she is a pissed off, grieving mother.
Exactly.
And even when she dies at the end of the first movie, Jason's actions against the girl who, you know, killed her or whatever are justified.
Yeah.
That's his mother. And I have a theory about how Jason survived, but we're not going to get into that.
Okay. Yeah, because we're supposed to be talking about Chucky, and we keep
know.
going off on tangents. I can't help it.
You keep taking us.
I can't help it. This is what I do best. Everyone who listens to Superman Crash Brothers Turbo knows this.
That's why I think, like I said, I feel like Friday the 13th tried to do that twice. You had Mrs. Voorhees was your big reveal, and then the second movie, Jason, was your big reveal. And of course, you know, you have those questions, but whatever. But I don't feel like it took anything away from Chucky with it not having like a massive reveal, like us finding out when the mother finds out type thing. But I really do feel like that I don't feel like it would have made it better, but I feel like it would have been something cool to not know. But then again, how are you not going to know? You know, Friday the 13th is Friday the 13th. You know, Halloween is not named Michael Myers.
Sure.
Nightmare on Elm Street isn't named Freddy. Like,
yeah.
But this is named, you know, well, now named Chucky. But Chucky's always been plastered all over it. You knew it was going to be a red-headed killer doll from the get-go.
Yeah.
They've never hit it, I guess, is where I'm trying to get to it. But I think it would be cool. I think it'd be cool to see that type of storyline in another movie, because obviously we can't do it now with Chucky.
Right.
But
are you, I mean, okay, so since we've talked about it real quick, and or we've kind of touched on a few of them, because I got two questions for you I'm curious about.
Yes.
But one, I was going to say that Chucky is technically the most, where we've said he's the most consistent. He's still, from most of the killers from the 80s, the only one with an ongoing franchise to this day.
That's because he's fucking amazing. Duh.
But how amazing is that not even a reboot or a remake of the original film stopped the original franchise from going on, because there's not been another Friday the 13th because there's legal troubles. There's not been a Nightmare on Elm Street because Robert Englund is too old, but I feel like he'd still do another one.
I feel like with Nightmare on Elm Street, after they tried to make that other one where the guy who wasn't the guy who played Rorschach was the guy who
Jackie
played,
Earle Haley,
was the guy who played Freddy.
He was not a bad
He
choice.
wasn't. No, he wasn't. I feel like the makeup really fucked him over.
Yeah.
Because there's just something appealing about the old style makeup. Like
Sure.
the way that he looked just
It's like
it irked me.
Well, because they tried to go too realistic with it, and something
But
about
we
it.
don't want to see realistic. This man is
like, it took something away from it.
Yeah, he's literally fucking dream demon. Like
Yeah. So it's like it I get what they were trying to do, but it took it a step too far. And they did that a lot in that movie. I won't get into that detail because I'm sure we've discussed it here many times before. But they took it too far in so many directions where you're just like, I don't like this guy.
No.
Like, I love the actor. I really
Yes.
do. And I felt like he was the proper choice for it. When they said he was going to be Freddy, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
Perfect. And
I felt like he had the look. Like not that he looks like Robert Englund, but like his facial structures and everything looked like he could be Freddy.
Yeah.
It's just the way they went about it. They just really shot themselves in the foot.
there was so much about that movie that just didn't work. And kind of opposite end, when they did Friday the 13th remake, they didn't do anything new. Like, they added a few little elements here and there. Like, he had the underground tunnels to kind of explain how he was able to go from point A to point B so fast. Okay, fine. But nothing about the film felt like you were doing anything new with this character.
You weren't.
So it was just kind of like,
But
okay. And
granted, sorry to cut you off. Granted, the Friday the 13th, they've had movies like that though.
yeah, and I think that's where I can kind of give it a pass in some ways, because I watch it and it's like, yeah, I'm watching a Friday the 13th movie. Because I mean, it hits all the right beats.
Jason killing people, like that's why you watch it. He's
Sex,
fucking awesome.
drugs, death. It's all there.
Titties.
Yeah, we got plenty of titties. They didn't shy away from it, so it was like, all right, well, I'm getting everything I wanted.
I'll actually say probably one of my favorite Jason movies is actually Jason X, and it's mainly because of the female robot.
Yeah.
Like, I hate how he looks when, like, the metal mask and everything. Absolutely freaking hate it. I hate the fact that the freaking nanobot thingies brought him back to life because she kicked his ass. But it's just, I don't know, like, it's one of my favorites because I feel like it's really freaking fun.
Yeah.
Even the scene where he walks into the freaking, like, holodeck type thing and the girls and all that kind of crap, and he's trying to kill him, and he's just like, what the fuck? Like, you know what he's thinking, even though the man doesn't speak. But it's just fun.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any other Friday the 13th movie that is fun like that. Even like the one when he goes to New York, like, I feel like the funniest part in it is when the guys are standing on the sidewalk and he whips, like, holds up the machete or whatever, and they're like,
just
oh no,
pulls
he
up his
takes
mask.
his mask
Yeah.
off. That's right.
And
And
it
they're just
just
like,
seems-
ah, and run away.
But it's such a bizarre thing for Jason to do.
It is a really bizarre. He would have just been slicing people all the way
Yeah.
down the freaking sidewalk. Like, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they did the Freddy versus Jason, literally he leaves like a freaking bloody path wherever he goes. He walks through the cornfields slaughtering everybody.
Yeah.
He's not going to walk through fucking New York City and not kill people.
Right, exactly. So, and bringing all this up, I want to talk about the Child's Play remake,
Yes.
because when we watched it, I even made a comment when they announced it on Twitter, where I think Don Mancini, and this is like one of my proudest moments on Twitter, Don Mancini was just like, why? Just kind of his reaction to why they were remaking it. And I commented with a GIF of someone kind of rubbing their fingers together like, you know, money. And he actually responded. He said, exactly. And I was like, I got a response.
I will say, I really love that movie.
That's what I was going to say. It was surprisingly good. Now,
I have some problems with it.
Sure.
But I do really love it.
I would never say that it was better than the original.
Oh, no.
I appreciate what they did because they found a way to do something different.
Yes.
But still play with the idea of the original in such a way that it works.
Yes, like he wasn't bad.
Yeah.
At the start of the movie, like even with the chip malfunction and everything else, he was not bad. He was literally like a blank slate. Think of him like a child. Like everything that he saw was what he based his, you know, personality off of. The kids watched horror movie. There's death, stabbings, all that kind of crap. Watching the father or stepfather or whatever in the hell he was beat on the little boy. Like he's watching all this stuff and all he wants to do is help. He wants to help his friend.
Yeah. And
then when his friend turns against him, he's, you know, a child that just has way too much fucking power.
Yeah.
But like, it's such an amazing idea because it's not, I wasn't upset that it didn't follow the same storyline.
Right.
And matter of fact, I feel like they could tie it into the original movies. Think of it like how, I don't know if I have any Avatar The Last Airbender fans, but a lot of people think of the live action movie for Avatar as like a play that was from the actual cartoon. When like Aang, you know, was a girl and Toph was the big burly man and all that kind of crap. And I think they could take the new Child's Play movie and make it like it was a movie in the actual Chucky universe. Like they heard the stories of a killer doll. They're like, oh my God, we should make a movie off of it because there's already horror movies in actual, you know, our actual world that are based off killers, like real killers, but make it to where it was a movie. Like people took it as a joke, thought it was just, you know, a story you tell your kids to terrify them or what the fuck ever, and make it to where it's a movie in the actual Chucky universe. And then when Chucky actually, you know, starts tearing shit up like we know he's going to, people are going to be like, fuck.
I mean, that's not a bad idea. I would be down for that to see them do something
perfectly.
like that. Yeah. But no, I mean, I really appreciated it. And I honestly feel like, now I have a love-hate relationship with remakes because I feel like some movies just don't need to be remade. I feel like if you've nailed it, you've nailed it. If you're going to remake a movie, do a movie that had promise, but just couldn't quite meet expectations for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't have the budget, or maybe they missed a mark, or maybe there was a better story that you could tell, twist something around. Child's Play did not need a remake, but at least they found a way to do something different.
Yes.
They were telling a similar tale, but put their own spin on it, so it's not voodoo, it's not all that stuff. They just said it's a malfunctioning piece of machinery or computer, and
it just literally follows that whole line like that Terminator made people think about. What if machines revolt?
Yeah.
Plain and simple. He had a very smart AI chip, which other movies at, what the hell is it called? Toy Soldiers?
Mm-hmm.
They touched on that.
Small Soldiers.
Small Soldiers. Thank you. They touched on that. Having a smart AI chip put in a toy is a bad idea.
Which kind of makes me wonder, did they see that and be like, hey, Child's Play?
I mean, it literally kind of looks like it.
Kinda.
But the biggest problem I have with it is even in the actual Chucky movies, not that I can ever pinpoint does he ever actually kill a small child.
Yeah.
But in the remake, there is a young boy who gets killed by one of the drone things. And that, as my husband knows, I hate watching children die in anything.
Now, I did want to bring that up because that was always been kind of one of our prerequisites when it comes to horror movies, is anytime there's a movie that I'm looking forward to watching, but if the trailer shows an animal or a kid, she's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it because that animal's going to die or that child's going to die. And then I have to kind of pre-watch it to ensure her.
Yeah. Like we literally just watched Prey, the new Predators movie. And literally like almost through the whole movie, I was like, please God, don't let that dog die.
So yeah, spoilers, the dog doesn't die. Dog's fine.
Dog does not die. And for anybody who also feels like me, you can like Google search and there is a website that has every single horror movie ever made and tells you if an animal dies in it.
So see, there you go. Now you got a way to...
Yeah, like I don't even like watching horses die. Like I get sad if an animal dies. An animal or a small child. Teenagers could give a shit. Like
now keep in mind too. Now I'm not saying that I like it or anything like that. I won't say that at all.
No,
because
but it has to have a purpose.
Right. That's what I always tell her. If there's a child that dies in a movie, I'm okay with it if it serves a purpose. Jaws. Alex Kintner died.
And I hated that movie for the longest freaking time.
But his death serves a purpose because it pushes the people to take note of this shark attack that they're all like, no shark. And now it's like, oh, okay, well, we got to pay attention now.
That was one of the problems we had with the new Puppet Master movie.
Yeah. Because
that remake of the Puppet Master.
Littlest Reich.
They freaking botched it. Like I said earlier, I absolutely love Puppet Master, and the puppets have been used for evil purposes, but they have never been evil like they are in that freaking movie.
No,
and the fact you took a Nazi survivor and turned him into a fucking Nazi, absolutely.
Yeah.
They made him out to be some Nazi fucking literal monster.
Yeah.
But like some Nazi monster, and it made me so fucking mad. Because the fact that he was Jewish and a survivor was one of the most amazing things. And that's why his puppets fought so hard to protect him. And to, they were his friends, his literal friends. But this new movie, like I hardly watched it.
Yeah.
Like we sat here to watch it and it was absolutely awful. They like the worst one I didn't even watch. I literally closed my eyes was the pregnant woman.
Yeah. When I watched it because like I knew what was coming, and when I got to the end of it, I was like, that was absolutely unnecessary. That was done nothing more than for shock value because they just wanted. It was like, how vicious can we go? And that was it was wrong in so many levels.
To be real, they're not the first horror people to do shit like that because Aliens did it. Mm-hmm. Like that is one of the I don't remember which Alien movie it is.
Alien vs Predator Requiem. They did that.
Yeah, where they're in the hospital and the xenomorphs pop out of the stomachs.
And see, and even that, I mean, I'm not saying it was great or anything.
No,
but I didn't feel like it was as vicious as what they did in Puppet Master. It was just like, okay, well, I guess maybe. Like, it didn't bother me as much. The one in Puppet Master was like, all right, God.
Well, it's because you actually saw the freaking shit in the Puppet Master.
Yeah. It felt wrong on a lot of levels.
Yeah. Like, they messed it up. Like, not even just how the puppets were, but then the fact that you had multiples of every single puppet.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Yeah, that absolutely irritated the shit out of me. But with Chucky... Like, we know now, and spoiler, but we know now that there are multiples of Chucky, which obviously we find out in one of the other movies. But even in the series, that's something, like, we talked about. Like, which one is it with the hospital?
That would be Cult.
Cult. Yeah, so when you see the Chuckies, like, you see there's more than one... Like, you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, it was a reveal, like a big shocking reveal. Like, what is going on here?
Like, that's our big reveal right there. Like, you have more than one Chucky. So it makes you think, like, when did they discover this? How long ago did they figure out that they could split their souls? How many times have they split their souls? Like, we know now that, especially in the TV show, like there's a fuck ton of Chuckies now, and again, spoiler alert, he can possess human bodies.
I mean, I'm hoping everyone is caught up on Chucky for this point because we're talking all of it that's out right now. So hopefully you're in the know. I guess we should have said that up front, but just so you know.
I'm sorry.
No. I mean, point blank, we're talking about everything Chucky at this point, along with other things, as you can possibly tell. And we won't be keeping you for very much longer. I just want to, but yeah, I mean, it actually retroactively, if you look back on Curse, and they probably mentioned that in Cult, and I don't remember because we've only really watched Curse and Cult maybe once or twice. We haven't watched them as much as we have the others.
I feel like we only watched them once each.
Yeah, thus far.
Yes.
We will get back around to them eventually, but when Chucky wound up at Andy's at the end of Curse, obviously that had to have been a split doll because the other doll was at I can't remember his Brad Dourif's daughter, Fiona Dourif, her character, the one in the wheelchair. Yeah, I can't remember her name right off the top of my head for some damn reason, but she had a Chucky. And then when that one winds up at Andy's house, you're like, well, how the hell did... To my knowledge, I don't remember. There seemed to be like a disconnect, like wondering how the hell that one wound up there.
Yeah.
After seeing where that Chucky wound up at the end of that movie. So it was just, it raised a question, and then they answered it in the next movie. Like they've done every single time.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate about them. So, my last question, based on all these things we've talked about. Now, I'm just talking, this question only pertains to, we're not counting the remake in this. If you were to choose your favorite and least favorite out of we'll cut the series out too, but just out of the movies, which ones would you say would probably be... And, if one doesn't really...
My least favorite, I'm kind of torn on because it would be between, what'd you say they were? Cult and... Curse.
Mm-hmm.
And Curse, it's because of the, small child getting super traumatized in it. And then, of course, everything that happens, with the main chick. And then Cult... The only reason is because the scene where the chick is laying on the bed and the freaking glass comes down.
Yeah.
Can't. It literally sends shivers up my spine. It makes me so uncomfortable. Like,
so you're gonna
can't freaking do it.
You're gonna give it bad marks just because of a kill scene? That's usually what gives people high marks.
Not for me.
So I mean, none of story wise, none of them were just like, this is the one that I'm kind of like,
I mean, not really. Like, I like the stories with it and everything. Like, I know the first one's kind of like, it's not meh, but it's kind of not my top. My top favorite is Bride of Chucky. And I'd say probably my next would definitely be Seed of Chucky. Like, I absolutely love Seed of Chucky.
That's the one that I always hear gets the lowest marks. Because I think, and I honestly feel like it's because Don Mancini said, you know what? This is insane. Like in Bride of Chucky, he knew that they were already going off into weird territory, but he just said, let's just go balls out. Like his plan, I remember hearing this, mind you, on the commentary for Bride of Chucky, before they had even thought about it. And I thought, when I heard him talking about it, I was like, I'm kind of on board with that. I want to see this movie. He talked about his ideas because at the end of Bride of Chucky, we see that Glenn or Glenda is born. So you're just like wondering, oh my God, there's a spawn. What's that going to be like? And he said point blank on the commentary that his idea was to do something like the old Looney Tunes cartoons where Sylvester had his child. And he's trying to teach him to hunt. And his son's always like, no, Daddy, no, I can't do it. Oh, my God. And he's like, you are going to catch this mouse. And I'm going to make you do it. And he's like, no, Dad, it's just terrible. And that was the impetus. That's what he said he wanted to do. And he did to a point. He just took it in, a little different direction, but
I mean, no, he legit does it.
But
like,
yeah.
you know, Tiffany wants him to, she wants him to stop the killing. She wants to have, you know, a happy family. And then, you know, he's like, no, I'm going to teach my son what I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, Glenn doesn't like it, but Glenda does. So.
Right. And you know, I understand it can be a little much for some people.
Yeah, I mean,
but
it is over the top, but they're fun.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it. It's at that point they know what they are. The movies know what they are, and
Like
they don't care. They're just
Only
like,
other one I feel like I have as much fun watching is the one when Andy's at boot camp.
Yeah.
And that's because of like the jokes and especially Chucky interacting with the little boy that he decides to, you know, team up with. And it's just like, it's freaking gold.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I mean, there's just a lot of fun. The character is a lot of fun.
yes.
And I think, I mean, I would definitely agree with you. Bride is probably top of,
Yes.
and it's really hard for me to say which one I dislike the most. Like, because
Right?
I'm
really
with
don't
you.
dislike any of
No.
them. There's parts in them that I don't like, but it's not like I dislike the entire movie.
Yeah, it's you can enjoy them for what they are, and you appreciate what they're doing. Because
Yes.
again, each film, none of them feel like a rehash. They
No.
all do something different, and they all go in such directions. Part 2, this is another point that they brought up on with Gorley and Russ that I never occurred to me. The parents, you know, at the end of part 1, his mom is still alive, you know,
Yeah.
and that's where we think that's going to happen. He gets in this foster home in part 2. You think that's where you're at. They end this movie with Andy and his foster sister being the only survivors. Their
Yeah.
parents are dead. Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
You know, they don't have a home. And you're just like, okay. But they just walk off into the sunset like, well, I guess this is it.
Yeah.
So you're just left wondering, going, where are they going now?
But see, I think that's why Andy's definitely one of my favorite characters because they kept him.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they didn't just throw him away. They didn't kill him off. They kept him.
But they
And-
let him have a respite, which I appreciated as well,
Yes.
because we kind of gotten him taken away for a moment.
Yes.
And then it was like, okay, here he is again.
But see, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, you have him and you keep expecting him to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then he doesn't die. And then it's almost like, you know, Chucky is, you know, as big of a nightmare for him as Andy is as big for Chucky because he's the one that got away.
Yeah.
He continues to get away. And not only that, he literally freaking shot Chucky, chopped off his head, and nailed it to a fucking board.
Right.
And then drove around and talked to the son of a bitch. Like, come on. He is your... Oh my God, they are Batman and Joker. Like,
Yeah.
they are each other's... Like, they have to have each other. Like, it's always this cat and mouse game. Everything Chucky seems to do is some way to finally get back at Andy, to finally find this one that got away and freaking kill him. Even up into the, you know, show.
Do you think they will ever let Chucky kill Andy?
I honestly don't know. Part of me hopes not because I really do love it when, you know, the good guy wins. I know a lot of horror people love it when the,
Hey,
you know.
he is a good guy. Anyway.
I love it when the, I can't even say the little guy wins because Chucky's the little guy.
He's a little guy. Whoa.
I love it when the underdog wins.
There you
How's
go.
that?
There you go.
I always like the final girl or the final guy.
Yeah.
Like, I like to watch those movies like that. And I like when you have it like that. I don't like when they kill off the person, you know, that you watched fight and struggle the entire freaking movie just to have them killed off.
And see, if you also, here's another interesting part of it too that I just kind of occurred to me. If you take a look at each stage of the films, there's a character arc that I mean, in all honesty, they've kind of built to the series because the first 3 movies are really Andy's story.
Yeah.
Like, and all the trauma that Chucky put him through. Then Bride and Seed are more about Tiffany.
Yep.
And then when we get to Curse and Cult, it really focuses on Nika, whose name I looked up just so you remember, because I did forget. But that's her story. Yeah. And then when we get to Curse, or to the series Chucky, we're introduced to yet more characters, but then all these other characters are then woven into the story.
Yeah.
And it doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah, because it's like they literally thought it into as, Andy and these other ones that are with him or helping him in these ways and stuff like that. It's like they knew that he was always going to be searching. This is what happened in the background. This is the stuff you didn't see. Same way, Chucky gets from place to place and all the little things that he plays out. Andy's been doing the exact same thing with his own team.
Right.
And I think it's going to come down to, I would hope, a good battle in a sense. But I would really like to see Andy come on top and finally get to live his life without Chucky looming over him. Because he is literally, that poor child, almost his entire damn life, has had this doll looming over him in the worst possible way. He has taken everything from Andy. Mm-hmm. And I want Andy to finally put it to bed and live his life.
I mean, I'm not really sure how many seasons they want to do this show.
I don't want them to drag it out.
I don't either. I'm hoping that Don Mancini has a plan in mind, because as much as we're sitting here gushing about it and we love the stuff. I guess I don't want there to be a season that's just like, okay.
We don't need another Supernatural. And I freaking love Supernatural, but it gets so drawn out and they rehash the same thing so many times. It just doesn't make it fun anymore. And I don't want Chucky I don't ever want to say that Chucky's not fun anymore.
Right. And I feel like if they've got a plan, already keeping the seasons down to about 10 episodes, it's already a great start. So you're not dragging out an entire season.
Yeah, it keeps you wanting more. I cannot wait for the next freaking season.
Yeah, because we're finally going to get to see Glenn and Glenda again. And I'm really excited to see the actor, or they, I can't remember their name, but they were in Sabrina, on the Netflix series. Mm-hmm. They play, what was the character name?
Her friend.
Yeah, her trans friend. I can't remember. God damn it. I mean, I've got IMDb, but I don't want to touch my phone. But yeah, they're gonna get to play. I don't know if they're playing both.
See, that's what I'm really wondering, because, in the Seed of Chucky, they're together until the twins are born.
Right.
And then they split them, and you find out they split them because of the very last scene is them at their birthday party as human children.
Dude, how did we miss that?
What?
That right there. That told us, that was giving us like a red flag right there, that they were able to split souls right there. Just like he's able to do.
But we thought it was splitting souls in the sense because there were two of them.
Sure.
Like having, it was literally two different personalities just living in the same body. So I guess I always took it as, well, they split them, because you had the boy, Glenn, and then you had the girl, Glenda.
But they told us right there what they were going to be doing in the future sequels, and we didn't see it.
That's true.
Wow. Oh my God, we just figured some shit out. That's awesome. So, I don't really know what more we can say about it, unless you've got anything more to say about it.
Well, I was just going to point out, it kind of makes me wonder, did they ever say whether or not Chucky's the one that mailed his own arm to them? Because that's literally the last scene in Seed of Chucky, where Glenn is opening the box and it's Chucky's arm. And it reaches up and grabs his neck.
Yeah, they never really touched on that.
Because you kind of wonder how he put himself back together, but obviously he wouldn't be able to put himself back together.
Sure.
Which means he had to have already had a split soul.
Okay, so here's now through the Chucky series, we have gotten a few answers to some questions here and there, and in Curse, which I'll be honest with you, when they announced Curse of Chucky was coming out and it was like a straight to video affair, I'll admit, up front, I was a little hesitant because most straight to video affairs have been
Not good.
yeah, because normally that almost seems like the kiss of death anymore, or it used to be. I won't say now, but at one point, if you were a straight to theaters film franchise, and then the moment your next movie goes straight to video, it's like, well, this one's dead. This is done. I think Tremors was one of those which surprisingly they're not that bad. I'm not going to sit there and say that it doesn't destroy it, but in a lot of cases, in a lot of cases, it's the kiss of death.
Yeah.
So when Curse of Chucky was announced, I was a little hesitant. I was like, man, okay. But I was still curious because it'd been a while since we've seen a Chucky movie, and I was curious to see where they were going. But I also felt like they weren't going to be consistent.
Yeah.
Because Chucky looked different.
Yeah.
And I was just a little taken aback by that. And I was like, well, give it time. Let me see where they go. And then by the end, same old Chucky.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, they pulled the rug out from under us. That's awesome.
Which I really did think that movie was probably one of the most terrifying.
Yeah, because that's where they kind of reined it back into terror.
Oh yeah,
100%. Which I didn't not appreciate because we'd done the goofy stuff, we'd done the humor, and then it's like, all right, let's take it back to the horror for a minute.
Yeah,
let's see where that goes. And then Cult, they kind of toyed a little bit with because when it came down to 3 Chuckies, they were able to kind of play with that a little bit with the humor. But with the series, wouldn't that be interesting to kind of, like, if there were any plot holes, like the hand, like the arm, and how did they get back together? Because at the end of the movie of Seed, she seems like she's living her life as Jennifer Tilly, which they have kind of touched on, that she still kind of
is Jennifer. Yes, she is Jennifer Tilly.
But they didn't quite explain how he kind of wound back up with her and how she just kind of rolled back into being part of this.
I would honestly say it probably boiled down to either him threatening her or him threatening Glenn.
Yeah, maybe.
Because you already know Glenda is going to be his, daddy's little girl because she's just freaking like him. But Glenn had a very soft heart and didn't want to hurt people. And, Tiffany wanted that for him. Mm-hmm. So just from what we've seen so far in the series, she's scared of him.
Yeah.
And I think it boils down to, which he does, say something about it in the series, about how, he'll kill her again, and this time he won't bring her back. Mm-hmm. So there's no telling how many times he's killed versions of Tiffany, and if it hurts the OG version.
Yeah.
Because that's something I would really like to know. Where is the OG Chucky? Like the one who found out he could split his soul and started splitting it, because I honestly don't think we've seen him yet.
That's true.
Because we know there have been Chuckies that have died. We know that Andy had the one. And we know, from Colt they had at least 3.
Yeah.
And then now in the series, there's a shitload of them. Mm-hmm. So I honestly believe, even though the main Chucky in the TV show has said that he's the real Chucky, I honestly don't think he is. And I think the real Chucky is hiding somewhere because he knows as long as there's one, he'll always come back.
That's true. Good. That's something to think about, people. We're going to be season 2 of Chucky is coming out in October, so we got a few more months, and we'll get to see how that plays out. I got nothing else to talk about. I mean, we've gone for like about an hour and a half talking about Child's Play. I'm sure we could go a little longer if we wanted to, but I don't want to hold up everybody's time. I think we've done a deep dive into this franchise, along with a few tangents here and there, but it was all in fun.
Yeah, I think we rambled enough.
But it's fine. That's what we do. We're horror ramblers. That's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, all you fellow horror ramblers out there, let us know how you feel about Chucky, how you feel about Child's Play, and all that jazz. You can tell us on Twitter at Horror Ramblings. And if you've got more to say and a tweet just won't do, you can send us an email at horrorramblings@gmail.com. If you love social media groups, then follow us on Facebook, join our Facebook groups, and hang out with fellow horror fans like yourselves, and we can talk about Child's Play all day long. Hey, and we can talk about, I posted something, I think, on the Facebook group about the Shout Factory, Scream Factory are releasing the first 3 on 4K.
Woo!
Yeah, we're going to get to see that stuff, and it's coming out very soon, I believe. Either this month or next month.
He gonna be looking extra crispy.
Yeah, and from some reviews that I've seen, they said that the transfers are really good because they went back to the original negatives. They've got the sound in Dolby Atmos because that's the new big thing. Remember when THX was the big thing? You know, it would just come up on your screen.
Oh, yes. I am old enough to remember that.
THX, baby. You can also go to Instagram, see an assortment of horror images if we can remember to post on there. You can say nice things about the show. You can head over to Apple Podcasts and give us that lovely 5-star review because that helps the show grow. That's what you want to do. If you want to help the show grow, give us that 5-star review. And you can express your feelings, help the show grow over on Spotify as well if you're so inclined. It's all appreciated, but most importantly, tell your fellow horror fiends to search Horror Ramblings on their preferred podcasting platform. And if we're not there yet, we're working on it. If nothing else, keep up with any and all things at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes for your convenience. And as always, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.